What's up, everyone? Good to see you. You guys got to check out how cool this is. So, as you know, it's been freezing in New York. I want you guys to look right here. There's people ice skating on the reservoir in Central Park right now. This looks like something out of a movie, honestly. Do you guys see that? Let me know if the quality of the stream picks it up. I know we're only streaming in 1080p, so maybe it'll be a little granular. However, if you look dead center, you can see these people absolutely tearing it up on the ice. How cool is that, right? I mean, what a picturesque shot, right? You have the ice skaters, and then in the background, you have the Sherry Netherland Hotel, you have the Pierre Hotel, you have the GM building, and you even have a little bit of 432 Park. Anyway, an amazing scene. We're starting off tonight's live stream right on Central Park South and 6th Avenue. We'll get started here in just a moment. But from here you can see 53 West 53rd Street. It's the Jean Nouvel building. And then this is really the cool shot here. This is Steinway Tower, 111 West 57th Street, which is the skinniest building on Billionaires Row. And then this one right here is 157 West 57th Street. That's the first building that was ever constructed on Billionaires Row. Then you have Central Park Tower, which is the tallest. Same developer, Extel. And then you have 220 Central Park South, which is the building by Vornado. So we'll get started here in a moment, everyone. Maybe we'll do a quick walk down here by Central Park to check out the ice skaters. Pretty unique experience. It's usually not this cold in New York City. It's really not, but the pond is frozen over. I see Alan is here, XRP, good to see you. Stephen Bate, Larry Adams, Mark, DC322, Mohammed, always a pleasure. And I wasn't gonna do a live stream tonight, but I'm like, you know what? I've got to pop on because we might make history live on stream tonight. I believe you have silver trading at $98 an ounce. We might crack $100 an ounce of silver while we're doing the live stream tonight. And we might rally all the way to 5,000 on gold. We're $50, I think, maybe a little less, maybe $45 away from that big 5,000 round number on gold. Who knows, maybe we'll hit it tonight. Usually price is attracted to those big round numbers. I call them the Jesse Livermore round number, particularly 100, 5,000, that big round number. So this has been an unbelievable bull market for commodities. And what I believe is driving a lot of that, well, the continuation in the move in gold and silver has really been a lot of the verbiage that has come out of some of the world leaders in Davos. Anyway, we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Walks and Wall Street. We're starting off on the corner of 6th Avenue and Central Park South. Right now we're looking over the Upper West Side of Manhattan. You can see 1 Central Park West, which is the Trump International Hotel and Tower. You see 15 Central Park West, which is the limestone Jesus building that was developed by the Zeckendorf developers in partnership with Robert A.M. Stern, who is one of the best architects in New York City, who unfortunately passed away on Thanksgiving Day last year, 2025. And then right here is the newest high-rise that's going up on the Upper West Side. That is an Xtel project. Really kind of out of character to have, you know, a big glass skyscraper going up on the Upper West, but that is what we have. Lots of stuff going on, and a lot of, I mean, wow, talk about a lot of great interviews. Amazing interviews coming out of Davos. Yesterday, we briefly talked about my favorite interview with CEO of Citadel and Citadel Securities, Ken Griffin. There was also another one that dropped today, which was a Bloomberg interview with Ken Griffin, which was also fantastic. Now, today was even more great content out of Davos. We had an interview with Elon Musk, that is a must watch. If you saw the live stream yesterday, you know, I said the Ken Griffin one was a must watch. The one with Elon Musk tonight, well, it wasn't tonight, it was about maybe 6 hours ago. That's a must watch interview talking about AI, humanoid robots, the future for Tesla in terms of, you know, the robotaxi rollout, full self-drive, and of course Optimus. Also, Elon, not to kind of spoil the interview for everybody, but he really touched on the biggest bottlenecks for AI. And this has been something we've been talking about for quite a long time on the channel, and this is something that China is actually not dealing with, and that is energy. You know, if you listen to what Elon Musk said today, he said specifically that there's going to come a time, and according to Elon, that could be within the next couple months, where we're producing more chips than we could actively bring online just because we don't have the power to be able to plug them in. So when you hear things like that from the world's richest and arguably smartest individual, you know, one could assume that you're going to have increasing incentive from the federal government to double down, if not triple down, on power production. We've talked about the nuclear power rollout. However, that is the long-term plan, right? It takes a lot of R&D dollars, takes a lot of investment, and it also takes a lot of time to get nuclear power online. And that's coming, but you know, that might be 10 years down the line. So in the interim, you need to have kind of the unsustainable energy sources really firing on all cylinders. And that's why I believe we've seen such an amazing rally in GE Vernova. I believe they are already booked out maybe 14 years in terms of their gas turbines to produce energy. So I believe companies like GEV is really going to continue to benefit, and I believe we'll have an unbelievable power bull market in America. There's going to be so much capital expenditure, right, on data center, obviously on the AI build out, but more so, which could maybe reward investors with a more immediate return, is the energy build out. I think it's going to be quite massive, and we need it. Not to repeat myself, but that was the single, I would say the biggest takeaway from that Elon Musk interview with Larry Fink. Larry Fink is the CEO of BlackRock. Is when Elon Musk said, there will come a time, and it could be as early as the next few months, where we're producing more chips than we are actually able to bring online because we don't physically have the power to power them. That's crazy. So we'll talk about that and a lot more tonight. I would also recommend everybody check out the Jensen interview at Davos, which was fantastic. And, you know, it's going to be quite the long weekend because we have this monster snowstorm. I would take it that most people are probably going to be snowed in Sunday and Monday. So take the time to review a lot of those interviews and the roundtables from Davos. It is well worth your time, and there's a lot of hidden alpha there that investors will benefit from. All right, let's see who we have in the audience today, as we are standing right outside of the Plaza Hotel and the brand new Grand Army Plaza South. Hey, I see New England Crypto. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Speaking of crypto, there was a lot of talk at Davos about tokenization and stable coins, which we'll discuss on tonight's broadcast. I see Type Username is here. Ooh, that was almost a big accident. Did you guys see that? It was almost a big T-bone. Maybe someone can rewind that to see just how close that was. I'm glad I wasn't crossing the street during that time. Anyway, Bruce's is BlackRock really so bad? I don't think so. I believe there's a lot of scapegoating going on with a lot of people that don't understand really what the company does. BlackRock is just an asset manager. You know, I'm sure all of you have seen, I even just call them memes. People saying BlackRock and Vanguard own the world and they control the world, and it, you know, these people that are making that type of content, they're kind of putting it out there like they've discovered some, you know, secret, unknown, you know, nefarious thing. It's like, no, Vanguard and BlackRock don't own everything. They don't have control of everything. They're asset managers. Yeah, they have trillions of dollars in AUM. That's not their money. That's your money. Literally, if you buy, right, if you have an account at Vanguard and you purchase, you know, the S&P 500, they're the custodian, right? So they hold your money. It's not like they're, you know, some big cabal doing a bunch of nefarious activities. And no, BlackRock is not buying up all the single-family homes. I just, you know, people get confused BlackRock and Blackstone. They're like, BlackRock is buying up all the single-family homes. It's just like this. It's just not even real. Like, doesn't even exist. Blackstone is a private equity firm. Santos, good to see you. Who else do we have? Joseph Hardaway, DC322, Brad's Brain. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a chance to watch a lot of the stuff coming out of Davos. And potentially we'll hit 5,000 on gold and 100 on silver tonight. You never know. Let me just see who else we have here. Patrick Connolly, good to see you. Kathleen, welcome. Brandon. Matthews, good evening from Toronto. Yeah, I will, hopefully I'll be in Toronto a little bit later on this year. I was in Canada last year, 2025, and I had a really good time. I really enjoyed Canada. Now, another big takeaway, just because I kind of want to blow through these topics, I think I only have like an hour, but a huge takeaway from Davos is if you kind of notice the framing from a lot of the interviewers to the interviewees, particularly a lot of the American interviewees, right? It was this framing that, you know, the president is really wailing and hammering on Europe. and European countries. And almost to the point where, you know, insulting them, kind of like demoralizing them, taking shots at them. But my big takeaway from all of that is the focus on the importance of having Europe and European nations return to economic growth. I mean, Europe has got to start growing again. European economies have really been lackluster in growth. In terms of, and in stark contrast, by the way, to America and even a lot of countries in Asia, particularly Korea, Japan, Singapore. And that's a very big security risk globally. And this was talked about kind of to the point of ad nauseum as well. Oh, cops is $99 silver now. Yeah, hopefully we hit that 100 on the stream tonight. Might as well. That Jesse Livermore round number 100 silver. What a move! Insane move. But when you have a very, in general, when you have a weak Europe in terms of sluggish or stagnant economic growth, that doesn't bode well for the overall security of the world, or the security globally. And I believe that's the big point that the US government is trying to make, and trying to impose our kind of way that we run our economy on Europe. Man, that wind is crazy. We'll try to maneuver our way out of the wind. But in this AI race, you know, the two big winners are going to be the United States and China. And if Europe doesn't pick up the slack in terms of their economies, that could not bode well for US national security. So, interesting framing there from Davos. Hey, Patrice 2020, thanks for joining us. We're now walking down 5th Avenue. You see Kim is here. Good evening. I can quite literally feel the temperature dropping. It was a really nice day out today. It was about 40 degrees. And from today all the way until Sunday, the temperature is going to drop significantly into the major snowstorm that we are going to have on Sunday, potentially dropping upwards of a foot or more of snow on New York City. Daniel says it's nice out. Thought you guys were going to get hit with the storm. Apparently we're going to get hit Sunday night into Monday. All of this craziness is apparently going to start on Sunday night at 9 p.m. Now, we also got GDP or revised GDP numbers out today, right? I think the US economy is growing at 4.4%, which is stellar. Absolutely stellar. And as a quick review, generally speaking, we can use GDP as kind of like a leading indicator for stocks. So oftentimes when we get a positive GDP print, 70% of the time, the S&P 500 is higher 6 months after the print. Right, so you can kind of use a lot of that data to stack your directional bias, right? So if the overall US economy is growing, well, you could infer that corporate earnings are probably also going to grow and come in quite well. So if your directional bias on the entire market is negative, and you say, well, I have a bunch of short ideas, I'm going to short a bunch of stocks, you automatically, statistically, are at a disadvantage for making money. Because again, roughly about 70% of the time, when we have a positive GDP print, the S&P 500 is higher 6 months after the print. Bruce says Trump is spending too much on defense. I think the Trump administration is spending too much in general, right? I don't think we need to narrow it down to spending too much on defense. And this isn't just me saying this, by the way. This is kind of what we talked about last night as it relates to the bond market, which really starts in Japan and sweeps over to the United States. And the reason why I start with Japan is because there has been a massive political shakeup in Japan, where the new government in Japan is very, very pro-growth. They want to grow the economy. They want to get consumer spending rocking again. So they're going to decide to cut taxes. But simultaneously, they've also decided to increase government spending at a time when the BOJ, the Bank of Japan, is tightening conditions. So if you are a nation that purchases Japanese debt, you look at the whole scenario and say, look, do we really want to finance the spending of Japan when we have no confidence that, well, you know, they may not grow their economy, right? They may not make good on their promises. And, you know, you're starting to see the same thing, not on a massive scale where I think it's, you know, 5 alarm bells, but you're just starting to see a little bit of that as it relates to the United States, right? We had a very, very big move up in the 10-year U.S. Treasury yield 2 days ago. You see government spending in the United States balloon. You see our deficits balloon. And you have very, very pro-growth policies on the Trump administration. So there will come a time, maybe, right, assuming that we really don't grow our way out of this. So far, so good, though, right? I mean, we have, you know, 4% plus GDP growth numbers coming in, which is stellar, which is fantastic. And hopefully, as this AI infrastructure build-out matures and becomes a reality, perhaps we'll see a lot of that productivity growth that we were promised. But generally speaking, you know, the bond market is essentially, you know, the price of money. It prices money. And the bond vigilantes potentially could come out and say, look, we don't like the fact that the United States continues to spend money that they don't have, going into debt to do so. So we're going to price accordingly, right? We are going to put a price on that money. So the bond market sells off, potentially it goes no bid, and yields start to climb. So if we want to borrow money, if the United States decides it wants to borrow money, well, it's going to have to pay up. It's going to have to pay an increased premium. And that's the big if, right? The big if is, you know, is it a good idea to increase government spending? I don't think so, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe it's not a big deal. Hey, NAV, good to see you. The Mighty Bull is here. Bruce Scott Percent getting catty towards Newsom. Yeah, I saw that. I try to really ignore all that stuff. I think that's kind of a distraction. Like the shots that Trump is taking, that's just all like political nonsense. I mean, there's too much opportunity out there to get caught up in that crazy, stupid stuff. Alexander says, Tom, any thoughts on BTC lagging? It hasn't proved itself as good digital gold. It's proven itself to me as digital gold. I mean, I've owned it from $950 and it's 90 grand. So I'm feeling well. But this is very normal price action for Bitcoin. If you studied the classic 4-year cycle in Bitcoin. I didn't write an article about this, but I wrote a very lengthy X post, and potentially we're just following the normal 4-year cycle in Bitcoin, where we'll go through the normal, 40 to 50% drawdown for the cycle after the halving. If you go on my X page, x.com/walks&wallstreet, and you just use the search icon at the top right by my profile. If you type in halving cycle, HALVING cycle, the post should pull itself up. And essentially is you'll have a big rally into the halving. And then after the halving, I think it's about, I don't remember the exact amount of days. I wrote it there. But usually Bitcoin bottoms, I believe it's 200 days before the next halving cycle. But you can look the exact thing there, or you can just ask Grok or ask ChatGPT. But gold and silver are rocking, and we could potentially hit $5,000 for gold while we're doing this live stream. I think we're about $50 off $5,000 an ounce gold, and apparently we are just $1 away from the Jesse Livermore round number of $100 for silver, and that's been an unbelievable trade. I think if you've been in this trade since we've been talking about it and writing about it in the newsletter, that 5,000 number and that 100 number is a good level to ring the register and take some healthy profits and then maybe just let the rest ride. But usually you have a big reaction around those round numbers. Usually have a big reaction there.
So I was like, you know what? I had the means to do it. My kids would gladly play.
Also, we're probably going to get more legislation as it relates to Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and stable coins coming soon. The banks are doing a lot to combat that. But their argument, I don't really see what the bank's argument is. The banks are just all about control, but they claim that, if stable coins or the use of stable coins are widespread, and investors, or really not investors, savers, I'll use the term savers. If savers are able to, buy stable coins and earn, 4%, the banks are claiming that you're going to have massive capital flight away from the big banks and away from regional banks, causing a bunch of chaos. But I don't really see that happening, because already there are platforms where you could buy stablecoin and earn, 4% yield. A lot of people are just lazy, right? People, are okay with, letting their money sit in a bank account, not earning anything. And we would have already seen some sort of massive capital flight away from banks, big banks and regional banks, into more of these fintech platforms. Another reason why I believe that argument doesn't make any sense is because it's essentially the banks are lobbying that they want to continue to rip the American people off. They're like, hey, if we have competition, and our competitors are able to offer, 4% yield, well, then we're not going to be able to fleece our customers anymore, pay them $0 on their deposits, and make, 5% at the Fed. So the whole thing doesn't make sense to me. But look, everybody's going to lobby for their positions on it. However, it's inevitable. Right? Cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and stable coins is an inevitable thing. nice shot looking northbound on 5th Avenue here. Hey, the ABX girl, good to see you. I think you guys make some really good points, you know, about, oh, look at the Waymo here. You guys see that right here? Let's try to follow it. I think that was the first Waymo I've ever seen in New York. Melissa 2087, it's good to see you. Tim G, how are you? You know, I give those construction workers a lot of credit. You know, when you walk past them on a really cold night and they're just out ripping up the road. I mean, that's real work. You know, it's cold out here and those guys are out jackhammering away. That's real work there. I give a lot of respect and props to construction workers. I always tell this story. I'll kind of go off the rails here, but this was back when I was working at my other company. I was working at 1166 Avenue of the Americas, and this was a long time ago, and it was just a miserable day out. It was like sleeting, snowing, windy, crazy. And I was having a bad day. I was losing some business. I had a big client go to a competitor. I was just overall bent out of shape. And I look out the window and I see these construction workers, these iron workers, hanging off the side of the building, welding these steel I-beams together. And it is just, it's a mix of pouring rain, it's a mix of snow, sleet, and wind. And these guys are literally hanging off the side of the building, you know, hammering these massive steel I-beams in place and welding it together. And I'm looking out the window from my, you know, temperature controlled office, you know, where they give you snacks, they give you coffee, and you just have to sit at a desk and make a few phone calls. And I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm ever gonna bitch about work ever again, because that's real work, you know, out in the elements, you know, hanging off the side of a skyscraper, welding these steel I-beams together. And I'm in a, you know, an air-conditioned, or, you know, at the time, heated Class A office tower where I could take the elevator all the way to the top, go to our cafeteria, have 360-degree views of the city. It's like, you know, it's all about perspective. So I try not to complain anymore. Hey, Professor Dario, good to see you. Hopefully you're doing well. But yeah, hopefully we get a, you know, a classic market structure bill for crypto pretty soon. I mean, a lot of the crypto people, if you will, have been lobbying pretty hard down in DC. I know that the CEO of Coinbase was down there, you know, trying to hammer out the details. Mike Novogratz of Galaxy Digital was down there, you know, really trying to hammer out the details too. But, you know, banks are very territorial. They don't want their business models to be disrupted. But disruption is inevitable in any and all businesses. And everything will continue to be disrupted until the end of time. And if you use history as your guide, the businesses and the people who have resisted disruption, ironically, are the ones who will automatically get disrupted, as opposed to if you understand where the market is going and you try to skate to where the puck is going and adapt instead of complaining about it, well, then you'll be able to get ahead of the curve. And that's kind of been my big take on Jamie Dimon. As you know, Jamie Dimon has been a huge, how should I say this? Critic. I'll just say critic of Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, stablecoin, and blockchain technology. All the way since 2013, since I was involved in Bitcoin, 2013, 2014. And it doesn't really matter what Jamie Dimon thinks or believes, because, you know, he's the CEO of his bank and he has to protect his shareholders. That's what he gets paid to do. He would actually maybe go to jail if he didn't look out for the best interest of his shareholders. So perhaps, you know, he was just buying a little bit of time, right? It's very difficult, you know, rip and replace a lot of these systems, but, you know, JP Morgan Chase will 100%, you know, have their own stable coins. They'll probably almost rip and replace their entire operation to bring everything on chain. You're already seeing other companies do this, like Figure AI. We've spoke about that as it relates to mortgage originations as well as home equity lines of credit. There was a good article that we spoke about yesterday in Investors Business Daily that was talking about, you know, on average, it costs about $12,000 US to originate a home equity line of credit. But with the technology that Figure AI has, by putting everything on the blockchain and automating a lot of the underwriting standards, it brings it down to $2,000. That's tremendous. Speaking of JP Morgan Chase, right now we're looking at 270 Park Avenue. This is the brand new office tower of JP Morgan Chase. It's one of my favorite buildings in New York. It's gorgeous. And that's where Jamie Dimon is. Well, not now, he's in Davos, but he has his big office up there. Another thing that I'd say really quickly is, if you guys kind of enjoy a lot of the conversations we have on this channel about the financial markets and the like, I believe what I want to do is kind of segment the two, or maybe, I guess you could use the term spin-off. What is all this? Jeez. I want to make a second channel where, for those of you that are interested in just standalone market commentary, like a lot of the stuff we talk about, but, you know, I'll be able to be behind my desk. I'll be able to show you guys, you know, charts, articles, things like that. You can check out our second channel called Talks in Wall Street. I'm going to start posting on there next month. If you type !talks in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to that channel. But so only if you're interested in more, you know, general market commentary and things of that nature. As the wind picks up here again, we have a good shot of the Empire State Building. You know, it's weird, as I walk down to 42nd Street, I could feel the temperature dropping in real time. So yeah, that'll be, you know, I'm gonna try to spin up maybe 3 to 4 live streams a week there. Potentially maybe 6 o'clock p.m. where we could just do a debrief on the markets. It'll be in my office. I believe it's just going to be a better way to do this. Now, Walks and Wall Street will still just be, you know, as normal. I'll post here every day. This is more like in addition to this. Just because I'm a visual person, and oftentimes when we're talking about specific things, or if we're talking about if I'm referencing a video, well, I could play the video in real time, share the links with everybody a little bit easier, and you know, things like that. I believe it'll be easier. For example, like we talked about the Elon Musk interview. I don't have a way to share that with you guys right now. I just have to tell you to go look at it. But with this approach, I'll be able to, you know, be a little bit more efficient, if you will. Check this out. This is 520 5th Avenue. I mean, I guess I'll flip it back to you guys. I mean, what are your thoughts? Anything pressing, anything interesting you came across today in the markets, or any thoughts on Davos? Anything interesting coming up out of any of the interviews that you'd like to share? The Jensen Huang interview was fantastic. Apparently this is going to be some big exclusive club too. Money ones, I'm hyped for Optimus. Well, didn't Elon say by the end of the year they're going to have Optimus ready for consumers to purchase? Who knows if that'll happen. Keith says Tesla started to finally move today, earnings next week. Yeah. I believe if Tesla can crack 500, you got to get exposure to that. I think that big 500 number is a solid entry point for anyone trying to kind of catch the breakout for Tesla. So who knows, if we have a good quarter or something interesting comes out and we could really get breaking out over 500 on some good volume. I think Tesla's one of those stocks you just need to own. Let me try to get out of the wind. I mean, the wind is just punishing for some reason on 5th Avenue tonight. Speaking of Elon Musk, we got some updates on the SpaceX IPO. I believe Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Morgan Stanley will be the investment banks having a bake-off for SpaceX, and they're targeting a $1.5 trillion valuation. That's just insane. Did anybody else hear that? They're targeting a $1.5 trillion valuation for SpaceX IPO. And I think that's going to be a really good opportunity because let's just say they do IPO, right, at 1.5 trillion. Usually what happens with IPOs, and there's a really good book on this that was written by my friend, Eve Bobach. She used to work at the Federal Reserve and now she is the portfolio manager at Ropel Capital Management for the small cap portfolio. And the book is called Life Cycle Trade. That's a must read. I'll say it again. It's called Life Cycle Trade by Eve Bobach. And essentially it is a complete case study, a complete quantitative analysis on every single IPO ever since the late 1980s, how they trade, different earnings characteristics, you know, the price points they went public, and about 90% of the time, an IPO will undercut its original IPO price 12 months after it goes public. So what I would assume with SpaceX, you know, this is just kind of making a prediction just for fun, right? We're just speculating. If it goes public at a $1.5 trillion valuation, that thing is probably going to get creamed, and it'll probably trade below $1 trillion valuation 12 months, somewhere within the 12-month range after it IPOs. And I think that's going to create an unbelievable opportunity for us to buy that stock as it forms its stage 1 IPO base. So SpaceX is something that I'm very excited for. And I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, it sells off massively. And, you know, if you study how Facebook went public, Facebook was an absolute dog of a stock. Sold off immediately. I think it was down like 80%. Then it went sideways, built out that stage 1 IPO base, had a big breakout. I think that would be huge, huge, huge if SpaceX goes public. I don't know. Anybody else's thoughts on SpaceX IPO? This is now coming up on Grand Central Terminal. And you're looking at the MetLife building or the Pan Am building. I'm not too sure what the ticker is going to be. Let me catch up on some of the comments. Benny Hannes' Roblox had a massive run. The success or failure of their I don't know what that is. Now Roblox was a leading stock, but somebody sent me this interview that really freaked me out, and now I don't really want to have anything to do with Roblox anymore. So I don't own the stock. But apparently there's some crazy pedophile ring that has been going around Roblox. Again, I don't know how true this is or not, but it was on the Sean Ryan show. I had an analyst friend of mine send me a clip on it, and apparently there's these crazy people that like stalk the kids on this game. I think it's Roblox. It could be something else. I don't know. I don't know. It's certain it was Roblox. So it was, I mean, they need to, you know, make some protections, or, you know, police to make sure that none of that happens. However, I believe the top 5 creators on Roblox make over like $20 million a year on that game. And there's some, you know, people making some serious money just creating these games in this world. Al Baker's as Wells Fargo and its wealth management will move its headquarters from San Francisco to West Palm Beach, Florida. Yeah, I saw that too. That's pretty huge news. I mean, West Palm Beach is a really great place for a wealth management office. No shortage of wealth there. Quickly walk past the site of the brand new 175 Park. Right outside of Pershing Square. Nancy says SpaceX. I hope you're right. That would be an exciting opportunity, a huge opportunity. It could be the most valuable company in the world. SpaceX, huge. Now, how many subscribers does Starlink have today? I think they're one of the fastest growing internet providers in the world right now. You know, you guys just reminded me. That's something I have to look into. I don't know if Starlink is available in Miami-Dade County yet. I have to look that up. But everybody that I know that has used Starlink internet raves about it. They say it's the fastest, most reliable ever. Anybody in the audience have Starlink or have used it? Cops is most likely. When you think about it, it's kind of crazy that not every single airline has lightning fast internet. I think that's going to change with Starlink. Lee says Starlink is available through Miami-Dade County. Yeah, 4, 5, 6 is data centers in space could be big. And probably a lot more advantageous for people who live in the communities where these big data centers are, right? Yeah. I mean, space is just a huge void of nothingness. We might as well put all of our infrastructure up there as opposed to on Earth. CS2 says, Tom, Starlink works great. The Mini was on sale yesterday at Best Buy for $199. Let me take a screenshot of that comment. I'll have to check that out. 2422 says, I got the terminal to test it out, but I was just on a cruise the other week and they used Starlink. I was able to stream college football playoff games. Wow. Now, who's the airline that just signed a deal with Starlink? Was that Korea Air? I think Korea Air just signed a deal with Starlink. Something like that. I mean, just think about how much the world is going to change just over the next 10 years. You know, technology just continues to get better and better every year. You know, just think about the changes from 2014 until now. Think about the changes from 1995 until now. I can only imagine what the world is going to look like in the next 10 years. And I think that's why I think it's so important to participate in that. There's always something to worry about. There's always stuff to complain about, doom and gloom. But if you really just kind of sit down and focus on all of the just amazing things that are going on, particularly, you know, one of the things we didn't talk about tonight, which I totally forgot about, which I wanted to talk about, is the advancements in biotechnology. If you look at any of the biotech ETFs, biotech is breaking out right now, and biotech is not my wheelhouse. It is not my area of expertise. However, I believe over the next 5 years, you're going to have a major bull run in biotech. Because, I mean, you kind of have to, right? I mean, if you think about all of the applications of AI, very seldom do we talk about advancements in healthcare and tech. You know, quite possible AI could find different cures and things like that for certain types of cancers. Potentially by next year, you're going to have kind of pill form of those GLP-1 drugs, those weight loss drugs. Brad says, Tom, do you vlog in 1080p or 4K? So the standalone videos are 4K. This is 1080p. But yeah, I was reading an article. Apparently a lot of those, I think I'm saying it right? The GLP-1 drugs, which are the weight loss drugs. I mean, the TAM, the total addressable market, is pretty big. But a lot of patients are hesitant because you have to, well, in most cases, you have to use a needle, like self-injection, and a lot of people just hate needles. So to be able to have that in a tablet form or a pill form would really just be tremendous. And you know, I think if you could tackle something like that, just think about how much that could potentially improve someone's overall quality of life. And who knows, reduce the levels of diabetes and things like that. I mean, it's going to help a lot of people live a happier, healthy life. It could just be a tremendous game changer. And that's just only scratching the surface. That's like maybe a fraction of a percent of the technological medical advancements that are coming down the pike. And with AI, it should drive down prices, right? I have this theory, particularly in the US, healthcare is just out of control, crazy expensive. And usually things flip from one extreme to another, right? Everyone talks about the unaffordability crisis, which is real. Unaffordability for everything, housing, healthcare, I mean, you name it, it's unaffordable. I think most people would agree. You don't have to be a Democrat or Republican to agree on that. I'm gonna go inside here if you guys don't mind. But it's possible with, you know, these advancements in AI, you can drive healthcare costs down significantly. There was a really good piece that was published by Harvard, and it said something, I want to paraphrase it, but I don't want to say something incorrect, so I'll probably have to link the article in the description. But they said the vast majority of you know, big healthcare ticket item costs is mainly due to things that could have been prevented in the past. If you just caught it early, if you were able to identify it. So if everybody has their own personal doctor in their pocket, right, like a ChatGPT or a Grok that is giving you accurate information, not giving you fake news about health, but being able to read your medical history, you upload your entire medical history to the AI, every single thing that was wrong with your mom, your dad, you know, grandparents, great-grandparents, being able to identify what you could potentially be most susceptible to, and then implementing that preventative care, that could be a tremendous game changer for people. That could be a really, really big game changer. Even when you're talking about surgeries too. I mean, imagine the precision that a brain surgeon has to have. Such focus, such precision. Imagine when we're able to have robotics do all of that. AI will be able to identify cancers better than pretty much any human eye possibly could. You know, this could just be scratching the surface. You know, the best is really yet to come. This is Grand Central Terminal. It looks absolutely beautiful in here. But I think we'll leave it off here for tonight. If you guys enjoyed the stream, feel free to subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video. If you want more in-depth financial market discussions, feel free to subscribe to our second channel called Talks in Wall Street. You could do so by typing !Talks TALKS in the chat, and the Nightbot will drop the link to that channel. We'll start posting there in February. So that will be mostly behind the desk, in the office, more visual, a lot more interactive with graphs, breaking news, articles. You know, maybe I'll even give some, you know, financial modeling tutorials, and we could share kind of our work and things like that. So once again, !talks, TALKS, and you can click the link. But until then, we will see you all in the next one, and thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful night and stay warm. See you guys tomorrow. Clark, appreciate it. Andy, Al Baker, Tin Man, Professor Dario, Madison 32, Sandra, thank you. Santos, Mohammed, have a wonderful night. Road Trips, Just a Cat, Common Sense 101, Gary Carpenter, thank you. Peter Alex 411, Cop, Michelle Henry, B Cruz, TD, Matthew, thank you. Kathleen, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Stephen Bay, thank you so much. And Dave, appreciate it.